how many lives am I going to miss out on for pursuing this dream and this research and wanting to do this? And so I was really struggling, actually, with, is it worth it, what I want to do?
And eventually Dr. Tall relocated to Michigan, and you had the opportunity to join him. Ultimately decided to stay back here in Rochester. What went into that decision to to stay back here and finish here?
It was a really difficult decision. I think it was motivated a lot by things that I was going through personally during that time, though. So I had just gotten married, actually, about, I think, a month before he decided to move. And my husband had a full-time job here. And also, I had a death in my family around that same time, like within a week of me getting married, actually. And so there was this kind of nagging feeling, how many lives am I going to miss out on for pursuing this dream and this research and wanting to do this? And so I was really struggling, actually, with, is it worth it, what I want to do? And so suddenly staying close to the family became much more important. And since I grew up in Western New York, I was relatively close to the family here. And so those were things that were weighing on my mind as I was making that decision. And I didn't quite think, I think, when I made the decision that I would feel displaced. That certainly came as, I got closer to, the lab was moving and I wasn't going with them. But I kind of had already made my decision at that point.
Were you the only one that stayed back?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we had one graduate student who graduated a little bit, rushed to get out the door, and then another student who actually had moved with Greg to Michigan.
So, once you made the decision, though, and the lab had officially relocated, what was it like kind of, navigating the months and whatnot after that?
It was really difficult. I remember the first day that the lab had actually moved, and I went and I was adopted. I affectionately refer to Bob as my adoptive graduate advisor. And I was essentially in his space then doing research in his lab. He was my co-advisor. And I remember the first day that the lab had actually moved. My old lab was empty, and all my stuff had been moved to Bob's lab. And I sat down at the desk and just felt so alone. Like the people that I thought were my family were suddenly gone. But I will say that Bob actually had his last graduate student before me had just finished. And I think she had moved within a couple weeks of me joining, before I joined the lab. And she had actually written me such a nice little note. Gave me a little card with a keychain. And she wrote, I know you didn't start here, but you're going to be using the space, and I want you to know that you're part of this family. And she put the entire line of Bob's graduate students and included me and said, this keychain has been passed down through all of Bob's graduate students, and it's now yours to give you luck. And if he has another graduate student after you, then you're expected to pass it on to them. And that part was I think that also defines the welcoming environment that I had, not just in Bob's lab, but the university and the whole department, pharmacology department in general. There was a number of labs who let me use their equipment and things like that, which helped a little bit, but I still had this, it was an internal struggle that I had. And I don't think a lot of people saw that at the time.
Bob, before you jump in, can you talk a little bit about, from your point of view then, what was it like? Did she come to you and was like, here's my situation, can you help? Or, what did that time look like?
No, it was very much a conversation, and I could tell that Makaia was very, or felt that she would be comfortable in that environment. She was certainly going to have a lot of space and a lot of time to herself, because my lab was pretty much winding down at that point. And so whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not sure. I've always had a very open door, just walk in when something's not working, walk in when something's working, when something's going on that has nothing to do with work, but it's taking your mind off of your research. I think that is appreciated, I hope. But it was a kind of a logical place. My background was molecular biology, but also biochemistry. Makaia was very much trained as a biochemist in our department. So many of the tools, many of the sort of things we think about, not just the physical equipment and reagents, but what kind of our mindset in terms of thinking about scientific problems. I think we had a lot of parallels there. So it was easy to converse, and I think over time, I think you began to feel pretty comfortable, hopefully, at least coming to me, and certainly I wasn't the sole person that you utilized as a resource after the Tall lab moved.